The World Bank actually has a long history working with the Philippine government in the low-income housing sector, even dating back to the late 60s and early 70s. In fact, the pioneering Town to Foreshore project was in really strong partnership with the Philippine government, between the Philippine government and the World Bank. Is the largest on-site slum upgrading and site and services project at the time. Since 2010, the World Bank also have been engaging in the low-income housing sector in the Philippines. So we provided a package of technical assistance to the government, ranging from policy level to the project level. At the policy level, we supported the Housing and Urban Development Coordinating Council in formulating a national informal settlement upgrading strategy. It was actually adopted last December 2014. At the project level, we are working with the various key shelter agencies to increase their capacity in addressing the shelter challenges at scale, especially in really providing solutions for in-city relocation for the informal settlers living in danger zones. For example, in our TA to the Social Housing Finance Corporation, or SHFC, we have been in the past 3 years giving a series of so-called just-in-time advisory services focusing at 3 important issues. One is product innovation, 2 is business process enhancement, and the 3rd is capacity building. The fundamental objective is to scale up their very successful community mortgage program, where organized communities collectively identify land and purchase land from private landowners, and they can get SHFC financing to do the procurement, to actually buy the land. Our technical assistants looked at where in the process of SHFC things can be sped up, can be more responsive, more flexible to the needs on the ground of the informal settlers. In particular, how then in-city relocation can be made possible given the rising price of the land in Metro Manila. To give you one concrete example, for the waterway ISF communities like this, we helped SHFC create a new landing window called high density housing window, where they increase the ceiling of their loans, and they also incorporate both site development and housing construction in their package of the loans to enable informal settlers to relocate within Metro Manila, where higher density housing is needed to compensate for the fact that the land price in Metro Manila is very high. So our TA has helped creating this high-density housing window to meet the demand of the ISF housing, especially in-city relocation. It's been quite the experience of working with the Philippine government is a challenging but at the same time rewarding one. The challenging side is that there are multiple key shelter agencies. Each has this distinct mandate. Sometimes not talking to each other, sometimes actually creating overlapping, conflicting policy environment. However, the collaboration has been a rewarding one because starting from SHFC, Social Housing Finance Corporation, they have a reform-minded leader. They really are keen to make in-city housing, in-city relocation for the communities a reality. We supported this passion, we supported this commitment. Through our TA, we had very strong relationship. We provided global experiences. For example, we looked at the large-scale slum upgrading policies and programs in Brazil, the design of their subsidies. And we also went to study the famous slum upgrading program, community-driven slum upgrading program in Thailand, the CODI initiative, where in-city slum upgrading is a national program fully supported by the government. So through this knowledge exchange, through these technical advice, Shafsi was able to open up a new product line as high density window. And I understand that by now, 2005, there have been more than 10,000 units, approved by their board, which is serving the informal settlers living along the danger zones, to help them to really relocate to safer in-city housing accommodations with affordable price. The critical element here is that housing, or the challenges of informal settler housing, is not only a issue of particular families, it's also related to the larger public safety, the resilience of the metropolitan region to natural disasters such as flooding. We would like to, through the shelter solutions, to help the informal settlers who don't necessarily have a formal access to the formal housing market due to various reasons. The land price is too high. The mortgages are not available for non-salaried workers, and the housing programs right now of the key shelter agencies are not big enough to accommodate all the needs of the ISF housing. Now, we also understand that there are more than 580,000 informal settlers in Metro Manila, out of which, out of whom 104,000 are living along waterways or other danger zones. Some of them are living literally within the 3-meter easement areas of the waterways or above the waters. Some of the structures are obstructing the flow of the water or the proper maintenance of these waterways or drainage canals. These structures would need to be removed for the border flood management purposes. And I think it's important for the government to have very adequate and affordable housing programs to address the housing needs of these informal settlers living right above the water or immediately near the water, especially along the 3-meter easement areas, so that the flow of the water will be smooth and obstructed. And when the flooding season comes, when the rainy season comes, the risks to flooding will be reduced. However, these are not necessarily the most fundamental reason for causing the flood. There are bigger infrastructure needed upstream in metropolitan Manila, such as dam or embankment and other big infrastructure to prevent entire Metro Manila from future flooding. Although some improvement along the waterways to increase the flow of the water is necessary. I wanted to emphasize what, it's very important to have informal settlers to have their own options. The government programs should be designed to reflect their desire and their demand, to meet their demand. And the informal settlers should be given proper process, due process, to choose different housing options instead of being forced or involuntarily relocated to places that are lack of income earning activities, like lack of livelihoods, lack of basic services. Around the world, this type of off-city relocation has never worked unless you have proper mass transportation, you have jobs in the destination where the informal settlers will be relocated to. Around the world, again, in-city resettlement voluntarily is the best solution. That's also why we have provided technical assistance to the key shelter agencies, in this case, Social Housing Finance Corporation, the National Housing Authority, to make in-city housing possible by addressing also the affordability concerns. So we have been also working with HATSI and key shelter agencies to design subsidy schemes to make the new housing at a very affordable price at the for the informal settlers. Really, for off-city relocation, as you can see at the background, some of the informal settlers have been relocated off-city to far-flung areas in southern part of to Cavite, and most of the time, the men are coming back to Metro Manila where the jobs were, and the ladies are staying behind, only meeting their husbands twice a month during the salary days because of the high cost of commuting. So the jobs are in city, livelihoods are in city, the social network and social capitals are in city. The best solution and most sustainable and financially also viable solutions are in city. And our TA with the Social Housing Finance Corporation has already shown just that. Informal settler families are an unfortunate outcome of a dysfunctional land and housing market. It's not, it's not the, how can I say it? It's not the fault of the individual families. Everybody desires a decent, affordable, and safe homes. Unfortunately, the situation is such that the land price is so high. It's very difficult for a newcomer coming from the rural areas, migrating to the metropolitan areas like Metro Manila, to find a place that is affordable. So oftentimes they end up being in public areas, the danger zones where they're not supposed to be. The housing, decent shelter is the dreams of every family, not only informal settlers, but also for the border community. Every time there's flooding, for informal settlers living along the danger zones, or every time there's heavy rain, the parents often worry about their kids playing along the waterways, that by the virtue of just living right by the water. It's unsafe, it's also causing a lot of clogging because of the garbages being thrown into the waterways, not only by the informal settlers but also upstreams by other even formal sector people. So it's actually a wise decision for the government to help informal settlers to move away from those danger areas, especially the 3-meter easement areas. At the same time, it would help the improvement in the water flows in the drainage areas. So when there's heavy rains, water can be quickly drained out of the metropolitan areas. I would like to stress that globally, off-city relocation has rarely worked because those locations have limited livelihood opportunities and increase the commuting cost a family would have to put in. and thus really reducing the overall quality of life of family members. We can see in this particular creek, part of the informal settlers have been relocated to an off-site location, but we found out already that many of the informal settler families, they send their men back in Metro Manila to continue their previous jobs. Then they don't have the money to go back home every day in their resettlement sites. They only can afford twice a month on the salary days to go back to reunion with their families. It's not sustainable, and is costly to the family, and also adds to the environmental costs, thinking about all the commuting costs, emission because of the transportation, the vehicles, due to this need for travel in between the livelihood and their houses. So in-city relocation, despite the initial upfront cost, which is high, it actually provides more viable, more sustainable solutions to both to the informal settler families, but also to the government. It's globally proving to be viable and a sustainable solution. Yeah, for the TA to the Social Housing Finance Corporation, concretely, we have provided technical experts in community financing, community mobilization, paralegal services, and architectural services to help they set up this new high-density housing unit. We also provided engineering advice to train the Shafsi engineers, and then they would then train the communities to supervise and monitor the construction. In this case, communities were given, the financing from Shafsi, so they can use to hire contractors to do site development, to build medium-rise or low-rise housing for themselves. So it's critical for communities to be part of this process, and our TA has been helpful in training the community members themselves to be able to supervise the construction, to make sure that construction is built to quality. And they are part of the process. They are also providing labor, and they are earning income through this process as well. That has already reduced the cost of overall construction because of their labor contribution. Yeah.